Hey everyone, welcome again to the Rotten Horror Picture Show, the horror movie podcast where we talk about movies. Generally, we usually talk about movies off of the Rotten Tomatoes 200 Greatest Horror Films of All Time list. But as this is our Patreon special, we wanted to do something that is not covered at all, not represented on the list whatsoever. There are many franchises
Blasphemy.
that are represented, but this is not one of them. Of course, I'm joined by Amanda. Amanda, how are you doing?
I'm okay. You remember my name?
I do. I can't remember where I am, but I remember who you are. So
Good.
one
Good.
check mark. We will be covering. This is the first in our series of covering the entirety of the Friday the 13th franchise. I looked it up to see what the rating, the Rotten Tomato score was for Friday the 13th. Because I figured, the way that this list works, you'd think
Bananas.
at least the first one would make it, right?
Yeah.
Just on like zeitgeist alone, because there seems to be that seems to have some implication as to how these things are ranked. No, and more importantly, none of the other ones will be on the list either, because this first movie we're covering, Friday the 13th, the original, Rotten Tomatoes score of 64%. It's the only one in the series
Oh, wow.
above 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I am shocked.
I kind of am too, because I mean, like, these have to be older reviews that are based on older reviews that are not taking into account like cultural reconsideration and stuff. Because I know a lot of people who consider Part 2 to be the best of them, and Part 2 has a 27% Rotten Tomatoes score.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's really low.
Yeah, and even Freddy versus Jason has a 41% score, and I mean,
What?
come on, that's at least a 60%. That movie's great, but we'll get to that when we cover it.
I'm blown away by the ratings for this entire franchise. Like, I could even forgive the sequels and the later movies having lower ratings, but the fact that the first one, the original, everybody knows this movie. Like, even if you haven't actually seen it, you know references to it.
I would argue that there's a lot of movies on the list that don't get there without this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we can get into that as we get into the movie.
Yeah.
And even the remake. The remake, I feel like is actually fairly well regarded, and that has 26% Rotten Tomato score, which I mean, that just seems like they're being mean.
I haven't seen the remake, so I can't speak to that one, but I also just find it
You haven't seen it
well,
yet.
I haven't seen it yet. I find it interesting. I don't mean to like jump the gun, but
No, please do.
I am somebody who, if people have listened to earlier episodes of this podcast, you would know this about me. I love the movie Halloween, the original, and I enjoy several of the sequels. I cannot tell you how many people, when they're like, "Oh, what's your favorite like classic horror movie, slasher flick, whatever," and I say Halloween, 100%, all the way. So many people are like, "Not Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th's better."
Yeah.
I'm just
Those
so
people
confused.
Those people
Where are those people?
wrong. And that's
Well, they're wrong, but they're also clearly not using Rotten Tomatoes.
That's true. And I mean, the one thing that we do know is that Rotten Tomatoes is the be-all, end-all of movie ranking and should be regarded as such.
Yes, it's the definitive resource for exactly how good or bad a film is.
Yes. So, what's your history with this franchise? Because I think the thing that's going to be really interesting about this, and we're going to do one of these one a month, which is going to work out really well because it's so frustrating that there's only 12 of these movies. Like, get it together, guys. Do one more and just make that part of my brain, the completest part of my brain, not crack every time I think about it.
Yeah, and there's so many great opportunities for ways to play with the name, like what to name the film.
Yeah, F-13-13.
Right. Just call it Friday.
Yeah, and that would be confusing with that other series that's called Friday. But yeah, I am not a huge and never have been a huge Friday the 13th fan. I actually, for a long time, my favorite movie in the series was Jason Goes to Hell, which I'm sure will cause a lot of people to just like groan and vomit. But because it's not it's not a traditional Friday the 13th movie, and I think that's kind of why I liked it, because by the time it came out, that formula was kind of played out, so I thought it was kind of fun that they went a different route, I guess. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, I am not a huge fan of these movies, but I do respect them for what they are and the place that they occupy in horror movie history. But you are more of a fan of them than I am, I think, right?
I don't know. I enjoy them for what they are, but I don't have they're almost just kind of like fun and funny to me.
Sure.
Like when I watch them, it's not necessarily because I'm in the mood to watch a scary movie. Like I typically watch Friday the 13th usually sometime over the summer. It's like a very like summer movie to me.
Sure.
I just kind of put it on in the background. It's like, I don't know. But so it's interesting because I think for me, one of the reasons why this particular film and this whole franchise never really hit for me the way it does for some people is that I knew the twist before I saw it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the movie Scream ruins it for you.
Sure does.
Yep.
Yeah, it is one of those. That's one of the things I am looking forward to talking about is because it's one of those things when you get into horror movies, like the first thing you learn is that Jason was not the killer in the first Friday the 13th movie, that's the first time your mind is blown as a horror movie fan, is when somebody tells you that, or you watch it and you find that out. And
yeah,
it is
preferably the second option.
Right. And it is it's usually the kind of thing I've found, it's the kind of thing where people say it as kind of like a that Jason's not the killer in the first one, right? Like it's a point of what's the word I'm looking for? Superiority in trivia kind of thing. It can be kind of like that. But it is the first step in what is the most clumsy handoff into a franchise that I can think of.
Yeah.
And honestly, one of the things that always put me off about this series, and it puts me off about Halloween as well, but somehow Halloween I think has worse movies overall, because the Friday movies are kind of they're all very similar and they're all kind of fun in the same way. The Halloween movies I've always felt like are trying to do something interesting, but they just fail at it miserably. And
I think that's why I like them more, though. Well, because I enjoy seeing the attempt, like the fact that there is a little more thought behind some of the Halloween franchise movies. I appreciate that they are attempting to go somewhere with them at least. Whereas, the Friday movies are kind of just like, we've found our formula and we're sticking to it.
Yeah. And I think the thing that really kills the Halloween franchise for me kind of is yes, is similar to this franchise for me, in that the look of Jason is very, very inconsistent, and they don't really. Everybody kind of has their favorite, I guess, but I've never thought that he looks particularly really good until I watched through these movies a couple years ago. And I realized they didn't really figure it out until part 8, which is the last one and generally the worst one. But he looks amazing in that movie.
Huh.
And I have the same problem with Halloween. Halloween, if you don't nail the mask, the whole thing falls apart. Like it does not work for me whatsoever if you don't get the look of that mask and the look of Michael Myers correct. And as far as I'm concerned, they only got it right twice, which was in the original one and the most recent one.
Yeah, I think I'm a little less sensitive to sort of maintaining a very specific appearance for the lead villain, if you will. I think the franchise where it actually really bothers me is the Nightmare on Elm Street and Freddy.
That's interesting because I feel the exact opposite. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Freddy is so specific looking because it's actually his face. And so when that changes, like, it's just kind of weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how did he change his... Anyway, whereas with Jason and Michael Myers, they're wearing masks. So you can kind of logic your way into, like, oh, he needed a replacement mask. Or, you know, it's weathered over the years and things like that.
I do appreciate, though, that after part 4... the mask is consistent in where it's been damaged and where it's been weathered. I do appreciate that.
Oh, I don't think I noticed.
Yeah, because he gets chopped in the head, I think, in the 4th one. And from that point on, there's always a machete chop in the corner of the mask.
Oh, that's a cool detail. I like that.
Yeah. And it's tough because in Friday the 13th, they always have somebody different play until Kane Hodder comes around. You always have somebody different playing Jason, which brings a different level of physicality to it that may or may not work for you, and a different look, and the clothing that they wear is different. And so I guess it's nice because everybody can kind of have their favorite, or if you're like me, you don't like any of them until the worst one. But I'm telling you.
It gives you something to be mad about.
The photography in Jason Takes Manhattan, the photography of Jason is fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to watching it. But anyway, before we get there, we have to start at the beginning, all the way back in 1980 with Friday the 13th. So we're going to take a quick break, play the trailer, and then we'll talk about it.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4. 5. 6.
'Must be my imagination.
7.
Can I help you? Hello?
8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Friday the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday the 13th.
All right, Friday the 13th, 1980, directed by Sean Cunningham, written by Victor Miller, starring Betsy Palmer, Adrian King, Kevin Bacon, and the slippery sanguine stylings of Tom Savini, SFX.
Wow.
I know. I worked hard on that one.
Yeah.
Amanda, what happens in Friday the 13th?
Crystal Lake's history of murder doesn't deter counselors from setting up a summer camp in the woodsy area. Superstitious locals warn against it, but the fresh-faced young people, Jack, Alice, Bill, Marcy, and Ned, pay little heed to the old-timers. Then they find themselves stalked by a brutal killer. As they're slashed, shot, and stabbed, the counselors struggle to stay alive against a merciless opponent.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, Clay, some of the things you're going to find in this movie include
Yes.
Steve Christie, the original Never Nude.
Yeah, that's I don't know if there's a modern version of that look where he's just got the pants on, but that's the Never Nude is probably the closest you're
I
going to
think
get.
that's the closest analog we have to it.
And is he wearing that? He's wearing that when he's being like creepy with her, right? And like brushing her hair.
Yes.
So-
Yes.
just really trying to let his chest hair do the work of that seduction, I guess.
Yeah, and the mustache, of course.
Yes.
Yes. A really comfortable looking cable knit murder sweater.
It looks so warm. Like I
It
imagine.
looks real cozy.
I believe they were shooting this movie in like September or something, so it was pretty cold where they were. So she must have just been very comfortable the whole time. I can just have to assume.
Yeah, the only woman on set at a reasonable temperature.
Yeah.
Cultural insensitivity.
You're gonna find it everywhere around here, so you may as well embrace it, I guess.
Yeah, it's not even really worth trying to name a specific scene. There's a lot. Casual, terrible old Hollywood impressions.
Surprisingly, a lot. Like
Yeah, this is not a thing I ever thought I'd have to be concerned with.
Yeah, I feel like the comedy of this movie is written by someone who doesn't really know what being funny is. So
Or like what teens do.
yeah, that's probably more specifically that. But it feels very much like comedy written by your dad or something.
Being outclassed athletically by an old lady.
She does a lot. She
I
throws
swear.
she throws a fully grown woman through the window of the kitchen of a cabin.
Yeah.
She's got that angry mom Hulk strength, I guess.
All adrenaline all the time. Kevin Bacon, but not nearly enough bacon bits.
Oh, Amanda. Keep it
Hey.
in your Speedo. Jesus.
You wrote that one, okay?
You are married. You are married.
It's fine. He'd be fine with Kevin Bacon too. And this one's my contribution. Excellent parenting.
Excellent parenting.
Excellent.
Much like the twist in this movie, I bet you weren't expecting that from this show.
Look, this movie is about a truly devoted mother.
It really is. That is really what it comes down to. Yeah.
Yeah. A mother's love for her child.
Yeah.